Yeah, let's do this.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, thank you everyone so much for being here tonight. We're really honored to be presenting Derek Ortega tonight. Be sure to set your chat to all panelists and attendees and use the Q&A box for any questions. We'll go through those later after the presentation. And without further ado, Derek.
Hello, everybody. Thank you guys. Yeah, first off, just thank you for having me here. And yeah, I'm super excited to talk with you guys and kind of just my journey through animation and like schooling and all that fun stuff. So my name is Derek Ortega. I'm a visual development artist and an illustrator. So just like some companies I've worked for in the past are Nick Jr., like Leica, Warner Brothers, BuzzFeed, and then I've done like illustration work for Simon & Schuster and like Sony, and hold on, let me just move this up box, sorry, and like the Indianapolis Colts and stuff like that, and just some others. And I'm currently at Netflix. I'm on Ge Happy, which is it's announced, but it's not out yet. But it's original series by Sanjay Patel. If you guys are familiar with Sanjay's superhero team, which is Pixar's, they have a short, Pixar short, and I'm in love with that. Like when I saw that for the first time, I really just love the design, everything about it, and Chris Sasaki, who is the character designer for that, and just like so to be on this project with Sanjay, like and just with the amazing team, like yeah, I was like all for it. So yeah, kind of to jump into it, I just wanted to start off with kind of just where it all started, and just like as a kid, I always loved drawing, and I think a lot of people, that's kind of just how it starts out. Just as a kid, you like drawing, and I really didn't know anything about animation, and I didn't know anything kind of like about even making this like a career. I just took like painting classes, and I was in an AP art class in high school, and one of my teachers, she just really like, yeah, she just, we got along, and she really kind of motivated me and kind of pushed me into doing more art, even though I didn't even know like about like animation or anything like that to begin with. So it kind of all started there. Um, and when it really started like transitioning into animation was right after high school, into like college, community college. I went there. I went to Chaffey College to get my general ed kind of just done and kind of just figure out what I wanted to do. And so, like one day, I was watching Coraline, and so I like was watching like the behind the scenes, and like it something just like sparked in me where I was just like what is this? And um, I like just started watching more and more of like these kind of behind the scenes stuff, and like stuff from well, at the time that was all like I had um but yeah, just really like going on like YouTube and like looking up like who these people were that were like creating these films, and like what they did, and like what is stop motion, and like even like Tim Burton stuff. Like I always liked that stuff, but I never knew like that was I never knew that was stop motion, and like I never knew like what was CG, what was stop motion, and like I kind of just knew like the Disney like 2D stuff. Um, but yeah, it kind of was really that really kind of sparked this interest of like animation within me. Um, so I just was like, how do I get more of this? And so I just started like looking on YouTube, like what I said, and like started building like these characters. And like this is like one character right here that I built, and yeah, it kind of was just like trying to get myself exposed to that, and like what is this whole like animation thing, and yeah, how could I basically get more of it, I guess. Um, Here's I just want to play this real quick. There's some audio, so hopefully it doesn't blast your ears out. But yeah, this is just like a little demo reel I made while in community college. And yeah, we'll talk about it after, I guess. But I'll just hit play. Hopefully the sound's good. It's only like a minute, so yeah. So
Super cool.
that was kind of like this demo reel I made. And like looking back on it now, it's just like super horrible to look at as an artist. But I thought it would be super helpful to share, to kind of show where like it all started. Um, but I made like those like kind of little like short, like I made like one or two like little short films like that were like maybe like 30 seconds to like a minute. Um, and it was really just to get myself, it was really just an exploration of just like the medium and like also just animation in general. And so in making that like little demo reel, like I saw like artist I really liked was like Kristen Lepore, who like did like a lot of stop motion stuff and still does. But I saw that they had like these demo reels, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like I need a demo reel if I want to like get into like a art school or something like that, or like even just a job. And so I like made that, but like most of the content in there, there's like nothing behind it. Like it's just like I like made those specific stuff just for the demo reel. So it was kind of like this thing that was like, usually you see that and it's like, oh, you made other films, but like it kind of wasn't the case. I was just making it just to make it. Um, and then, which brings like to this type of stuff right here, like this bed and stuff, like just, yeah, curious about just like building stuff as well. And so from that like demo reel, I started like just building sets and like creating these stories in my head with like no anticipation of like actually animating it because I didn't know how to animate. So I was just like, oh, I'll just make these like cool like looking things because I just like creating and like, maybe I could be a fabricator. I don't know. So yeah, just more stuff like that. This was kind of that character. Um, and yeah, just like experimenting and like I don't know how to sew, I, and I don't know how to like make molds and stuff, and I kind of, you can see that here that I don't know how to do that. But yeah, this was just kind of some like, and then just like some dramatic like emo shots that I did of this character just for God knows why. um yeah, and then just like some sets and stuff for it. So like all this, like I actually built out and kind of had like a story for it, but um, like it was way too big of a project for me to even do. But I just like building it, and I learned a lot through it. Um, and then so going into like my first, I was still in school at the time, and this was kind of like the first gig like that I got to start working on. Um, and it actually originally started because on Instagram, like there's this guy Tyson James, who he works at Big's Picks, and he worked as like an animator on like Tumbleleaf and we're kind of relatively the same age, and he was just like a little bit older and stuff. And I really liked his work, and he followed me, and I just like reached out to him and was like, hey, like, can we like get coffee, and like, can I ask you questions just about like animation and like stop motion in general, and like what you do? Because kind of at this point, I didn't really know anything about animation besides like what I saw on the behind the scenes of like Coraline and stuff. Um, but he was super nice, and he was like, yeah, like we'll meet up. And so we did. And then he told me about a commercial that he was working on. And I was just like, yeah, if you ever need help, like, let me know, like, work for free, like, I'll do anything. Like, I was just like kind of so hungry for it. And so he was like, yeah, I'm working on this commercial for New Zone, like the salad dressing. And he was like, oh, BuzzFeed is gonna like have it on their website, and like it's just like a little short, like a 1-2 minute like commercial thing where like these vegetables are like dancing, and it's like based off all these like bad puns or good puns, depending if you like that. Um, but yeah, so I got kind of more professional exposure through this. So I was like building these armatures and like painting these characters, as well as like flocking like this grass down here, and just like doing molds and these trees right here. That's kind of what I liked about it, the medium as well, was like for instance, like these trees, like we used like the like what you put posters in, like the cardboard cylinders, and then we got like actual branches from outside and just like put them, like twisted them and like stuck them in, and then like covered them with foam and like painted them and stuff. And so that was like my first exposure to like what a studio actually kind of how it ran, and like the inner workings of it. And these are kind of just like some stills from like the final product. It's on YouTube. If you like look it up, you can probably find it. Um, so yeah, that was like a super awesome opportunity. And then from that, he was working on like a short film, and we were working with each other while I was going to school. And so he, I asked again, like if he could help out, and he was like, yeah, sure, like I could use the help. And so, yeah, same thing. I was like carving kind of like these, I was in charge of like the set stuff. And so like I was carving out kind of like the rocks and stuff, and, the sculpting the like trees and painting them and whatnot. And yeah, so this was just like a short film of his that just I got to a little bit more exposure of like how these things work. um, which for me, like being like just like jumping into something and being like hands on, and like for me, I can't just like sit and like read something and like study it, and then like I actually have to be doing it to learn. And I feel like that's like you learn 10 times faster that way too. So like this was like perfect. um and yeah, so during this time, like when this wrapped up, it was just like a short period. Um, the studio Bix Pix, I like was talking with one of the owner. I think he was like the head of the company or something. But he was like, "Oh yeah, we need somebody. We need somebody. We're going to be working on Adventure Time, like stop motion." And then so like being like this guy that like is only like I just started community college, and I'm like, wow, this stuff is like happening because I just like messaged this guy like on Instagram basically. And they were like, yeah, we need somebody for like the Adventure Time, like to do some stuff on like BMO, like you know, the character. And then I was like super excited. And then like I like went camp. They're like, could you start next week? And then I was like, oh, I have like a camping trip. And I was like, oh shoot. They're like, oh no, it's fine. Like you can like you start after or whatever. And then so I was like, okay. And then like I went on the trip, and then like I come back, and then he like calls me and is like, oh hey, like we finished everything. Like our work, we don't need a we don't we're not, basically not going to need you anymore because we're like way ahead of schedule. And then I was like super bummed. I was like, no, like I was just like my soul just like shattered. And then so I was like kind of in a spot where I was like, okay, like now what? Because like maybe like a couple months passed, and like nothing really else happened besides like me working on personal stuff. um, and then so that's kind of where I continued like schooling, and like my path is super not linear, like it is in a way, but like it's very much so not like the traditional like like go to school and then like get a job right after. Like I went to community college at like JV college, and then I learned they had like animation stuff in Mount Sac, so I like went there, and then I took classes at Fullerton. um, and then like all during this time, because like a lot of the artists I like looked up to, like it was like, oh, they went to like Cal Arts or like Art Center, and so I was like, oh, I have to like go there, and I was like, I have to go to Cal Arts, and that was like the school I wanted to go to, and so I like applied, and then the first time I applied, I got waitlisted, and so like I was super like excited because I was like, wow, like they only accept like such a small amount, and it's only once a year. And so I was like super excited like that I was waitlisted, because I was like I didn't think I had a chance like at all. And so I applied like for the next 2 years, and I got rejected both years after. And so like it was super like also like another like soul crushing thing, because I was like, man, like I'm going backwards, because I like was waitlisted, and then like that was kind of positive, and then like rejected twice. So like it just didn't make sense in my head. And that's kind of when I had to make the decision, like is like a school really gonna like determine like who I am as like an artist? And so I mean, it's not a bad runner up at all, but I went to Art Center College of Design. um, and yeah, I loved it there. Oh yeah, and then also side note, I took like classes at Stupid Buddy Studios, like Robot Chickens. Like at the time they had a like animation course, and like I don't think they do that anymore, um, because I felt like it was just like a weird thing for them to do. But it was good, like it was good for the what it was. um, but yeah, so I went to Art Center College of Design. um, yeah, and during this whole time I was still being like proactive kind of about um, like there's something about like me getting jobs in like Instagram. I don't even have like a bunch of followers or anything like that, but like the ones that I do have count, I guess. But yeah, so I went to Art Center, and like this was like a project I did. But I include this because I think like during my time at Art Center, like I I felt like I didn't fit in as far as like my art style and like what I did. And like I was like super into stop motion, and like into like kind of more like the weirder side of animation, I guess. And like I felt like Art Center is very much so not that. Um, and so like me even like creating stuff like this, like teachers like encouraged it, but um like it just didn't seem like it fit, like, but which was kind of a good thing, because I felt like it stood out like a little bit more. um to where something like this is more like toy design, or like you know illustration, like a student might do this or something. um and then I was even doing like Stranger Things, so I was making like these wooden characters, um and like packaging them up and selling them, because you always got to do that hustle. So I was like making these things and like painting them, and like it totally was not worth my time. I mean, it is, but like now looking back at it, I was like, man, this took so long, because I like hand painted each one of these and like made molds, and was like selling them for like, I don't know, like $20 or something. And like yeah, but I sold a good amount, but yeah, it was very time consuming. But yeah, just stuff like this kind of I think made me stood out a little bit more, in going to school and whatnot. Um, but then I realized like I learned a little bit more about like visual development, and like I'm gonna need to like learn how to like draw and like paint, and especially like on the computer. And so like that was something that was really lacking, as you can see like in front of you. To this day I don't really even know what this is. I think it's trees, but it might be like green cotton balls, I'm not sure. But yeah, this was like my first Photoshop class at Art Center. And like this is really bad. Like I'll just tell you that now. But yeah, so it was really like um putting in like the mileage and kind of honing in my skills of like um getting familiar with the computer, and especially coming from such a like analog thing as like stop motion and stuff like that. Like I was not familiar with this at all. It wasn't my comfort zone. And so trying to find the balance of the two and like what I like as like an artist, because at this time I still was very much so um in exploration stage. Like I wanted to just experiment with different mediums and just like different types of things within animation. um and then like I was doing like kind of paintings and stuff like outside of class and like on weekends and stuff. So this was like a while after, but like I was doing kind of these explorations of just like maybe subject matters more that I like, um, but like still like learning how to deal with lighting and like just storytelling and stuff like that. Um, so these were, yeah, this was just like more explorative kind of personal work while in school. um, and for me, like I learned most when like we had an assignment, and then I would do the assignment again, or I would do it like in a way that I knew like the professors like would have no like way of like commenting on it. Like I could just like do it and kind of learn on my own, but like keep in mind of everything they taught us, and like um, storytelling and lighting, and just like how to basically draw and paint something so it reads as a storytelling piece. Um, so yeah, these are just like kind of more of that, like visual development pieces. And then this I wanted to show because this is like something that I did do in class. Um, that we had an assignment where we had to, it was like a graphic design, like for animation though. So you had to do like some type of like signage or whatever. But it was also exploring like day and night of like a scene. And so like we did this, and like I did it, and for the time like I liked it at the time. And but then after I was like, oh, I can like do this better. And so what I would always do, like what I said was like take a piece like this that I did in class, and then if I like the subject matter, like the day and night thing, like I like that idea, so I would do it on my own, like on my free time. And then so like I did it again, but I changed it up to where I could, I don't know, I felt like I don't know why I always felt like I was like, if somebody told me to do something like in class, I felt like I had to follow like a strict guideline of like what they wanted. But like when I did stuff on my own, I had more, I guess, leeway to kind of experiment and like explore these kind of bolder and like funner, like more fun shapes, and like really graphic, like kind of designs. So that was a piece that I did, um, like outside of school. And then, yeah, and then so here's just kind of like a collection of work, because during this time as well, like I I felt like I loved animation, but I also loved like illustration. And like I all the artists kind of I looked up to, they were like doing like books, and like as well as like working at like Disney or like DreamWorks and like Leica and other studios. They were like doing personal work. Um, and I've always loved like illustration. And so I was doing these things that were kind of like borderline animation and like borderline like like straight up illustration, and then straight up animation, and then kind of like something that's like a fuse of the two, where it's like, is that is that animation, or is that like illustration, And it's like it could be both, yeah. But as an artist, like I like to experiment a lot, and so like even if it's just like different materials, like this guy on the bike on the right. I just really wanted to do something kind of bigger, like a bigger piece and a traditional piece. So, and I just like bought a bunch of like colored pencils. And so I like drew this on like a big piece of white paper just one day because I was like, oh, I'm sick of like being on the computer like all the time and stuff. And so like um yeah, so like I try to go back and forth between those things because staring at like a screen all day does get like tiring. And kind of suppresses the creativity, I feel like, at least for me. um but yeah, as an artist, I was interested in this, and then I was interested in like character design stuff. um and I was also interested like just in prop design and like set design and stuff. And so I kind of like was very confused because in school, because I felt like a lot of like I was like, what am I going to be? Am I going to be like a character designer, or am I going to be like a prop designer? And like, although I feel like it, like there are just people who do character design and there are people who just do backgrounds, and I feel like that's really good because you can like master that thing. But I always felt like for me, like I would be so like I would feel like I would be put in a box, um, because I love like all these. I love like character design. I loved like just being able to focus on one prop or like a background setting. So, and I feel like it's worked for me in like what I do because I've been able to do a lot of different jobs in animation and studios. It also benefits too because the studio might be like, oh hey, can you like if I'm a prop designer, they'd be like, oh hey, can you like paint this background for us? And like I'm able to do that. So like it's kind of worked in my favor. um but yeah, and then I also wanted to talk on like the style as well because I feel like I have a style kind of, maybe. I I as an artist, I don't really know. I look at my work and I'm like, maybe. But like also see like how different like the range is. Um and that kind of goes off of me just like wanting to experiment and stuff. And so like something like this where it's like really like almost like inking and like kind of these like fine lines and yeah, and kind of overlaps and stuff like that, versus like something like this where it's like really bold and like flat and graphic. um like those always both really appealed to me. And I didn't want to give one of those up. Like I didn't want to. Yeah, so I was like, well, why do I have to like give that up? um so I think it's good to like have that diversity. um yeah, and then these are just kind of just like sketches, like personal explorations and stuff like in sketchbooks and whatnot. um and yeah, so and then so kind of moving on to this piece. I did this in art center, in a class that was like graphic design for entertainment. And the assignment basically is um, to create like a New York City like downtown with like a lot of advertisement. And like you do a lot of like research, and like which is super important. Like the more research you have, like your artwork is just gonna like sing like a million times over and be like way more um, interesting and convincing and like fit the time period and whatnot. But this was a class, basically, and it was by Paul Rogers, who he did like a lot of stuff for like Incredibles, like the um Incredibles like posters and like stuff like that. Like he did all that stuff, so he like is amazing and knows what he's doing. um but anyways, he was like presenting the assignment, and he showed this guy's work that was his past student, and his name was Travis Rees. And I really like was drawn to his work, and he was like working at Illumination, and he still is. But I really liked his work, and I was like, oh man, like this guy's work like kind of looks like mine, but just way better because I was like student. Um, and I just like felt like we had a lot of like a lot of similarities and like things we liked. And then so I like followed him on Instagram, like going back to the Instagram thing. And I just really liked his work. And I was like, oh, I messaged him and was just like, oh, hey, I really like your work. Like Paul Rogers showed us your stuff. And like I was super curious about like his process and just like also just like animation in general. So I like asked him like I think I like just was like, oh, like can I ask you some questions? Or I forget how the conversation even started. But anyways, so like that kind of happened. Um and like came and went, and had like this kind of like um you have like those art friends on the Instagram that you like know of but you never have met. But I bring him up because he was actually the reason why I got my first like official like animation job. um and like so movie like yeah, I'll touch on that right now, but this was just like another piece. Like this piece and then this piece um, was on my website, and Aaron Spurging, who's like our director in animation, he reached out to me and he was like, "Oh, Travis like recommended you," and then I was like, "Oh wow!" Like I I wouldn't expect that at all from him because I wasn't like expecting anything from him or anything like that, or even that my work was like good enough. And he was like, "Oh, I really like these two pieces, basically." And he was like, "We have Looney Tunes cartoons that are coming out, and we'd love to have you as like a background designer." And at the time, I was like still in school, and I was like, that was like one thing I always wanted to do was like I want to drop out of school and just start working, which is like good for some and not so good for others. Just depends on your what your goals are and stuff. Um, but anyways, he like saw these two pieces, and he was like, "Yeah, I would love to have you." And like that's kind of where the range thing comes in as well, because I was like doing this kind of style, which is like different from others stuff that I did, but it fit like what the studio wanted, which is like that's kind of like half the battle in animation. It's like you can be super super good, but if your like style or like if your interest or like what your subject matters doesn't like line up with the show, most likely you won't get hired. Not because you're not good enough, but just because um, that's not what they're looking for. And like most views, they want to see like, oh yeah, you can do something in the same realm of like what the show is going to be, basically. So it's kind of like luck, but and then like I think the best thing to be prepared like to get a job and stuff is to like show that you can do the work and like be ready, um, in like skill set wise, as well as like timing of just like it's gonna like it'll just happen when it's supposed to type of thing. Because like leading up to all this, like I was going to school and stuff, and I was like applying for internships. Like I applied for like Pixar internships and like DreamWorks internships and stuff, and even Warner Brothers. Like, and I didn't get any. I didn't get like anything. Um, and it just so happened like I got a job like while I was in like halfway through art center. Um, so yeah, that was super. I guess going off of that too, like he offered me the job, but I was actually on a study abroad with Art Center, and so like it was bringing like flashbacks of like the Adventure Time thing, where like it was there and then it kind of got taken away because he was like, oh hey, we have this like Looney Tunes, you want to be a background designer? And he's like, we're not starting till like I don't know a month later or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'll be back in like I'm gonna be back in like a month. And then he was like, "Oh yeah, totally cool. Like, I'll talk to you then." And then I come back from the trip, I'm on like a high because I'm like just came from Europe or whatever, and then I'm like, I'm ready to work, And then he's like, "Oh, we had to give the position to somebody else because we needed to start the show, like, And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, totally." I was super bummed, but I was like, "Yeah, I understand. I wasn't available." you know, and looking back on it, like I I wouldn't have like, because I was debating like, do I leave? Like, do I like go back home and like, but then I was like, in my mind, I was just like, well, it'll always be there, like jobs and stuff. And like to have opportunity like what I'm doing, it's like in Europe and you're in your like early 20s and stuff. And um, yeah, that won't really come again. I mean, it might, but um, yeah, so I was like bummed, but then he was like, oh, well, maybe we can do some like freelance stuff. And then so I was like, yeah, totally. And then so I did like one more semester at Art Center. And then during the, so it was like just like 1 or 2 months after, he was like, oh, we'll do some like freelance stuff. And then so I did. Um, and then I started, yeah, working on Looney Tunes, which I did background design work for. And so I was doing this I took a break from Art Center to do this specifically because I wanted to like make sure I like can learn as much as I can from this, because that was also my thought process too of like wanting to work, like drop out of school and work, is like I could learn way faster if I'm like working in a studio. And like I wouldn't have thought that way if I wasn't ready, but I did feel like I was ready. Um yeah, ready enough to do it. Like I learned so much, and like even looking back at like some like early roughs like that I sent him like before this, like I'm like, oh, like that's not really that good for like a professional artist, you know? Um, but he was super like great art director and really guided me through everything, and yeah, kind of believed in me and gave me a shot. So this was like the first one that I ever worked on, and this was probably like 2 years ago. Yeah, a little over 2 years, or yeah, 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, and it just like came out. It's on HBO. A little plug there, but HBO Max, and yeah, so this was the first one that I ever did. And then this was like another background that I did where like Porky opens up a like coffee shop with like Daffy. And so really like having that diversity, like I said, in like my portfolio and like being able to do different styles really like benefit me as well. And so like while I was doing this, oh yeah, here's like another one that I did. And so while doing this, I actually got another like freelance job at Nick Jr. I think it's still in production, so I like can't share anything. But it was like all visual development stuff for like a preschool show, and that one I actually got because Travis again like recommended me, because he's working like a full time job, and they probably were like asking him, and then he's like, "Oh no, I know somebody though," and stuff. And so like I've been super like thankful for him and like grateful, because that kind of helped kickstart like my career in hopefully a long lasting career in animation. Um, yeah, and then so that happened. Um, and then from there, I worked on Canvas, which recently came out on Netflix, by Frank Abney. And yeah, so funny thing with this was all kind of relatively at the same time as well. Um, I never met Frank Abney, and I just saw that he posted something on like his like Canvas like Instagram account again, um, that he was like working on this Canvas film. And like for me, I'm very just like, you know what, I'm just gonna shoot my shot, and if like doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it does, then like more power to it, you know? And so I like sent him a message and just was like, oh, like, oh, it looks amazing, because it is. And I was like, I I think I was a student at the time. Yeah, I think it was like right when I got the job at the freelance stuff, and so I was still like in limbo of like on break from school. But I was like, hey, I'm in school, like, and I really like would love to be a part of the production. Like, I offered to like, I was like, I don't have to be paid like or whatever, like because it was like a just a side project he was doing, on his own. And so he was like, "Oh yeah, for sure. Like if you just want to do like a visual development piece, that would be great." And then so yeah, I did this kind of for the scene where they drive off. And these were kind of just like some color keys, like some color exploration of just what that mood of that like scene's gonna look like. And so these were kind of like the roughs, and then this was just like a kind of final like piece for it. Yeah, and so that was a super awesome opportunity. And then yeah, now it's on at Netflix, and it's funny because we have like meetings at Netflix, and like they announced like, oh, this is gonna be on Netflix, and then like Frank uh, Abney came and like did a talk and stuff, and then like gave me like a shout out in the thing, and I was like, oh, it's so cool, like full circle, like we're both like here. Um, so yeah, and then from here, um, from there I was working at Warner Brothers on the Looney Tunes, and then I applied for a junior prop position at Leica Studios. And so this is just work. This isn't from Leica, but that Leica really like responded to this, and like the film that I worked on is still in production. So unfortunately, I can't share any of that stuff either. But um, I wanted to share this because they like really responded to this, and like going back to the whole thing of like having different art styles as well, like the variety and like diversity, as well as like subject matter, and yeah, as well as like not to put yourself down if like a studio like rejects you for like a film or like for an internship, because like it might just not be the right fit. um because I like, for instance, my job at Netflix, like I showed this in my portfolio, and like they just kind of glanced over it, like they didn't even really care about it. And it was kind of more those bigger like graphic shapes like that got me the job at Netflix that I'm working right now. And but like a really, they like pointed this page out, and they were like, oh yeah, this like it fits more of like what they're like what they do. um and and also not to say like you have to like change your style to like match the studio, because like this stuff, I just like doing stuff like this, and it just lined up. um because you could very much so just like do your own style, and like and then get hired there as well. As it yeah, it's kind of like this, it's kind of like a blurry area, I guess, because like definitely don't like make your work to conform to like a studio, but at the same time, like Disney does have like a kind of style, and like it does have a style, and like DreamWorks does have like a type of style. And I think you want to, when if you want to even work for a studio, like you want to be lined up with the right project. That I feel like that's where you're gonna, like, an artist is gonna thrive, and then the show's gonna thrive as well. Because that's actually like a kind of like a slight fear of mine of like getting hired for a show that like I have no interest in. But at the same time, it's like your work kind of speaks for itself, and like you wouldn't like I wouldn't necessarily be hired for a show that I wouldn't really like, because my work, it's just two different things, um if that makes any sense at all. um but yeah, so this really stood out to them. And um yeah, just stuff like more prop design stuff like this, where yeah, this is just kind of like a painting grayscale like pass, and then like with some color. And then this was kind of just some other personal work, um, of like exploring just kind of like ISO views and stuff. Like I never did ISO views either, and that's like something pretty important. Like especially I do prop design at Netflix, and so like a lot of it is like turns and like isometric views, which is like like these 3/4 views and like top downs, which I always try to avoid because I felt like I was never a really good enough artist to do that and like draw these things, but like just doing it over and over and over again, like you get better and better. Um, and then yeah, this was just like something more in a line with what I'm doing at Netflix now, where they like would respond to something more like this, because it kind of fits the style a little bit more, and like they're like looking for someone who thinks like in a graphic way and thinks in like bigger bigger shapes and like more playful type of style. um yeah, and then leading up to kind of now-ish, like I did this in art center. Like these are two children's book that I've written and illustrated, but I'm like currently trying to like publish them so you guys can get like a little sneak peek, um even though I did them a while back. But um yeah, so these are kind of just more of the bold big shapes. um, some artists I really like are like Chris Sasaki and Miroslav Sisek. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. But he's like artist from the 1960s, and like Mary Blair and yeah, and yeah, I just really, and John Klassen is like a illustrator. I really enjoy his work, and so like yeah, all the I in my mind it makes sense like why the way my work looks the way it does too, because like I'm also inspired by these artists and like grew up kind of like looking at their stuff and like really just like being mesmerized by like the way they use like shape and the way they use like negative space, as well as like kind of like like the idea with this whole book throughout, there's like kind of like this line, like the peanuts and the acorn and the shell and stuff like that, like this line versus like these full color like images. um yeah. And then this is just like another still from like one of the books. um yeah, and that's pretty much it for me. Thank you guys for having me, and I'll let you guys take over from here. Thanks for bearing with me. Hopefully I didn't talk too much your ear off.
Oh, that was so fantastic. And just seeing your diverse styles as well as just your various interests in illustration and animation, character design versus prop design, I think was very interesting. And I learned a lot and I admire your style a lot. So it's such an honor to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, so happy to be here.
So let's get started on Q&A.
You want
Uh,
to keep your screen share up, or
I could take it down, or it doesn't matter.
I think it might be better. Yeah, there we go. All right, cool. Thank you. Go ahead,
so-
Melinda.
Sorry if I'm not pronouncing this correctly. Pavida is asking, what is your advice for people that are interested in many disciplines? It's so hard choosing between story artist and concept artist.
Wait, is there a way to like see these questions, or
Yeah,
no?
there is a Q&A section at the bottom. It might be next to the raise hand button.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your advice for people that are interested in many disciplines? It's so hard choosing between story and concept artist. Yeah, I I I think really just doing it, getting like more exposure to it. Um, for me personally, like I was always like super interested in like storyboarding and being like a story artist, but and I did take like some storyboarding classes, but like the more I did concept art, like the more I kind of fell in love with that side. And not saying that you can't like do both, but definitely for sure I would say like um yeah, learn more about it and like what it entails, and like actually do it, because that's the only really way you're going to kind of know if it's like the fit for you. I personally just found out like doing storyboarding, like maybe it's not necessarily the thing like I want to do, but I know for people it's like, people want to tell stories more than like just like draw and like, or just like do like this concept art of, yeah, they want to be more with like writing side and like story and stuff like that. So I would just say, yeah, just do it. Um, just like try both out and be consistent with it. And I think you'll kind of understand, which one you like better. Yeah.
All right. So Brian Wang is asking, what's your advice on how to use reference?
Yeah, Google and Pinterest is what I use. And like going out and like finding your own reference. I think it depends on what specifically for, but like for instance, like at Netflix and stuff, like when I'm gathering reference, usually like the director will tell like, okay, I need a prop. Let's say it's like a 1960s like trailer or something like a RV. Um, I will like I don't write it down anymore, but I used to like write down like all these questions of like everything I would ask before I would even jump into the drawing. So it's like, what's the purpose of like the RV or whatever you're like researching, and like what time period is it? Like who, like for instance, like who's driving um the RV, and like is it like an old RV like where a homeless person lives, or is it like this nice fancy one where like this family's like on vacation? Um and so, the more you know in depth about your prop or your background or your character, I think the better your artwork will be. And then you can gather, a lot of reference based on that specific thing. Because once you get more specific, it gets more convincing, to the audience. Um, and yeah, just like Google, like honestly, like Google, Pinterest, like dragging stuff off and kind of combining things. Um, and interpreting it in your own way. And yeah, and even and like going outside and taking pictures, like when I go outside and I'm like shopping or something, or like and I see something kind of interesting, or like a person that like is kind of holding themselves in a weird way, like not creepy at all, but like I'll be like, oh wow, that's like really good reference, and then I'll even take pictures, and then like, or like a dog or whatever, and then like it'll just be in my phone for like God knows how long. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, what happened to that one thing? And then like go back to it, like,
All right, cool. Brian Wang also asked, what's your working order when getting an assignment for illustrating or designing something?
um, so as far as like my working order, like as a prop designer at Netflix right now, like it is pretty, like you do have to work pretty fast pace, because you are getting like assignments on Monday and they're due like on Friday. And then like in the middle of the week you'll have like art review with the director, so you'll need to have like all those roughs done by like midweek. So it is like pretty fast paced, to where like I would love to have more like time to like do like reference and research and stuff, but sometimes that's just not like possible in like a working environment. um but I usually start off with like getting my assignment, and then like in my head mentally writing those questions down of like, what is this, like kind of what I said before of like, um, what's the purpose of this, and then also keeping in mind like, um, for me as a prop designer, like is this prop going to be like used, is a character going to interact with it, does it have like multiple uses? Because like some props you will just do like a front view, a side view, and then other props are like more a call for more detail and like call outs and stuff, and so you'll have to do like, um trying to give like a good example, like if it's like a car or something, like and they like the characters go inside the car and stuff, what does it look like when the doors open, like what does it look like, um like if it's in like, I don't know, say it crashes or something, look before the crash, like mid crash, after crash, like, so it can really get in depth and detail. Um, but yeah, so kind of just like right, making those mental notes, then getting reference, and then doing roughs, and then going to final and like color. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Victoria is saying, hello, Derek, Melinda, and Sabby. Greetings from Argentina. Wow. Some advice for someone who really wants to go to US to study animation and focus on visual development and character design. Is community college a good idea if I can't afford college?
Yeah, well, welcome. That's awesome, from Argentina. Yeah, I think community college is something that's super great thing to start off, like to start off as, especially if you can't financially afford it. I know I couldn't financially afford it. That's also why I dropped out, because I felt like I got what I needed. Um, but yeah, I went to community college because I didn't want to take the risk of like spending all this money and like not having like kind of a clear path, I guess, and like direction of where I wanted to go. And so like community college really helped me, um, in kind of figuring that out without having to risk like, I mean, the only risk I really was taking was like time, but like, that's just what you have to do if you want to figure out what you're doing. Um, but yeah, community college is awesome. I would say like even if you can do like online stuff, like you can learn so much stuff online and like for free, um, to where that's kind of, especially for art, like that's kind of the world we're living in is like awesome in that way, where you could just like type something in and like look up, like look up how to do characters. And there's like a lot of professional artists that already have like videos online and stuff, and are like, Patreons and, like Schoolism and like other like online schools like that. So yeah, you don't have to go to art school. I think it definitely helps. It helps in the community, because I felt like I was like pushed, because everybody around me I felt like was so much better than me and like really really good, that it helped push me. And then you're also dealing with like people or teachers that are pushing you, and just like credible, versus like online you can find, just like rant, it's really up to you to find like the really good content online, which will take a little bit longer, but it's definitely like doable.
All right. An anonymous attendee asks, when you're designing the feel of a background, are there particular color schemes slash shapes that you go to?
Yeah, so it depends on like what the subject matter is, really kind of determines like the color scheme I'll go with. Um, yeah, so if it's like more of a happier scene, like it'll be like brighter and like, kind of more light or like saturated colors. I feel like I'm still learning in color as well, so like I have like a hard time of like picking out like the best colors. But yeah, and I also refer to like painters or like other artists that I like really like, and kind of dissect like, okay, what are they doing, in their artwork that I like, and like how can I approach that color into mine. Um, so like a lot of like color theory and stuff is really good to like keep in mind. Um, as far as like shapes, yeah, I tend to like keep things like simple, like simpler shapes, and like just big shapes. So it could be, because in animation, like these people are, the audience is seeing your image on screen for like you could spend like days on a piece of artwork, and like it'll only be on the screen for like 2-3 seconds. And so like you want to really convey like that it's legible, in such a short period of time. So like yeah, a lot of work I do like, really shapes and like easy to read and pretty
All
clear.
right. Victoria is asking about being able to fit into different styles. Do you think it's important to have like a defined style for personal work, or do you think it's like better to be more open to others?
Yeah, I think especially if you're like starting out or like if like I wouldn't worry too much about style at all. Um, like my earlier stuff, like definitely had no style in both sense. um, and it was really just like once I found like artists that I liked and like I just kept and like because your style really comes from like what you're interested in. And so like I was interested in like kind of like stop motion stuff and like like these character designers and these background designers and kind of like Tim Burton stuff, but then not Tim Burton stuff, and then like even like Wes Anderson and like other things like that. And like big bold shapes and Mary Blair and whatnot. And so like it kind of over time will just your artwork will turn into like a collection of like what you expose yourself to. So I would just say like just keep drawing and like Instagram is like really good. And it's done a lot for me, but at the same time, it's really dangerous as well because you could easily like be influenced by somebody else's work and then your work ends up looking like theirs and like it's not your own in kind of a sense. So there is like a balance that you need, like just being in a way and like not comparing yourself to other people as well, and just like creating work. And like the more you do that, like I think the better your work will be because it'll be your own and it'll be like more distinguishable when like studios see you. They'll be like, oh wow, like I've never seen like this type of art or like this style or whatever. Um, because you do see a lot of people's work that looks similar, and it's because we're all on the same platform and we're all like looking at the same stuff, so it's kind of hard to do that, like to get away from that. But so yeah, I would just say that doing that.
Thank you so much for that. Our secretary, Sammy Meza, is asking, what is your favorite job that you have been a part of so far?
um what's my favorite job I've been a part of? That's kind of, yeah, that's a hard one. um yeah, each job kind of had their own like special memories, and I would say like probably Leica was like my most um yeah, probably like Leica, because like that's what, well, it did get me into animation. And so it was like this build up. I might have played it down in my presentation, but I was like obsessed with like everything Leica. And like I was like, man, I want to like work for this studio and I want to like that was like my dream goal. If that happened, I would die happy. And um yeah, so getting to work there and like actually be in the studio and like see all these like see the puppets and like not just from like a glass, like to just like on lunch like just go walk in a set and like grab a puppet and just like mess with it, like um it was like super like inspiring and like cool. And like I went from just like a fan to like, oh, I'm a part of this, like um yeah, so that was like super. I would, yeah, probably down. I mean, I love working at Netflix too right now. Like the show I'm on, I'm super, yeah, like Sanjay's awesome and Joey Chu, our art director. Like everybody on the team is so awesome. So but I'm also working from home. So it's not the full effect of like being in a studio. So I would say like
Can I ask, like, have you been able to go back to doing like the like stop motion stuff since you started working professionally, or have you mostly been doing just 2D? 2D kind of work?
Yeah. So yeah, as professionally, I've been doing just like visual development stuff. Um, in my own time, I do stuff that is more like 3D related and like kind of like those wooden figures and stuff. Um, I can show you guys, hold on, one thing. So like there was a drawing of this guy, like there was a drawing of it like earlier back. I don't know if you guys will remember or not, but like this is like a project I'm kind of working on. And so this is just like a character sculpt. Hopefully
So
you guys could
cool.
see it, but
Is that made out of Sculpey?
yeah, it's made out of Sculpey and he has like a little backpack.
Oh, I love it.
Um, but yeah, so like I kind of I'm like working on stuff that has to that still kind of fulfills that niche or the itch. And yeah, we'll see in the future like what's gonna come.
Would you want to do that kind of stuff professionally?
Like doing like fabrication and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not sure because like I have friends that do it and like that did it at Leica and they're like so good at it and like I'm just like sitting there like in awe and like I don't yeah, it's kind of hard. It's because like they're making my designs and so I kind of like that. I like that aspect of like I have control over the design and like you and then you get to like bring it to life basically. So that was like super cool at like getting to design like props and like other things like that. And then walking down to the like fabrication department and then seeing like your props on the table like all built and like painted and stuff. And so like I think like unless it was maybe like my own personal film or something, I would want to do that. But I think professionally, like I like doing the designing part of it. Like I like to have control over that. So
That's
yeah,
fair. I understand that.
yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you so much. So Kimberly is asking, you mentioned struggling with isometric views. Was there anything that helped you beyond practice to become more used to making them? And she also says thanks.
Yeah. Probably yeah, just really just drawing and doing it. There kind of was no way around it. Um yeah, it's really just mileage and like practice. Um I avoided it for like a really long time, so I would say just like start doing it and like you're going to be really frustrated with it. Um but just do it. Yeah. And working on the computer though makes it like so much easier where you can just like skew stuff. So like that can give you a leg up. Um but yeah, I would just say just start doing it cuz I held it off and then like towards the end of my art center career like I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to be doing like we had assignments where we had to do that, and like I always just like dreaded them because I was like, man, I can't draw this thing in like perspective, and like yeah, so you just it's yeah, you just gotta do it.
You mentioned before that like that's something that you have to do a lot as a prop designer. Is that like what kind of stuff pertains to doing isometric stuff with like prop design?
um, a lot of stuff, yeah. Uh, like for the most part, if it's like something like simple, like like yeah, if it's something that like a book for instance like and you just need to see the front of it and like the depth of the side
Hmm.
um it mainly pertains to like CG stuff and like even stuff at Leica because like these things are dimensional
Hmm.
um so like a lot of things that will need like isometric views or like 3/4 views because they need to know how to build it and need to know like the depth and like how it exists in space basically. So like yeah, I do a lot of like 3/4 drawings and isometric views. So like do the like practice those a lot because like that's something as an artist I like try to avoid that and I didn't think it would come up as much. Um I was like, yeah, I can just draw whatever. Like and I just draw cool drawings, but like a lot of it is technical because they're like building like this stuff. So you need to learn how to draw, even if you're interested in like characters, like you need to learn how to do turns, like the front, three quarter, the back, top view, like what, because like directors will ask you like what, like how does this work, or like how, like if we're looking at him at this angle, like, and if it's off, like why on this angle, like did you mean to do that, or like is is that like a special thing about the character, or like what, so it's super important, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. Next question. An anonymous attendee asks, "How do you have advice on how to network well?"
um yeah, I mean, for me the whole Instagram thing worked, but it's I really wasn't expecting anything. I just really liked their work, and they were younger, like most of them were like younger in animation, so we kind of had this like understanding of like, they were like, oh man, yeah, I was there like once, and not that long ago. Like they understand, and if your work is like up to par to like ready to be in work, like they're gonna help, they're gonna try and help you out. um but yeah, just like even events like this, or like if you can um go, like, I know it's kind of hard now with everything going on, but like a lot of events, they still have like a lot of ones online, like Light Expo, and just like panels and stuff like that that you can attend online. And for the most part, like if you just like reach out to them, like even if you just want to ask questions and stuff, like I would say totally go for it. Like you can reach out to me. It's on my Instagram and stuff. um and like I'm more than happy, like to like artists will be more than happy to answer your questions and stuff, because we're not like these celebrities or anything like that. We're just like normal people that love what we do, and we want to share that with people. So um yeah.
Cool. All right. Uh, where am I on this list? Liliana asks, "What are some of your favorite traditional media tools to use at the moment?"
Hey Lily, I think that's Lily. um some of my at the tools used at the moment, yeah, so I was like really into Copics like a while back, and I had like almost like 200 of them or something, and I sold them all because I was like, I'm over this. Like I go through phases, but probably like gouache. Like I've always just been a big fan of gouache. um and I want to do more like color pencil stuff, um like more like physical, yeah, so probably gouache and like color pencil.
Cool. Oh, she mentioned paint pens too. I love paint pens.
Oh yeah, pen pens are super cool, like the Poscas.
Posca? Yeah,
Yeah, those are freaking awesome.
they're so fun.
Yeah.
All right. Luis asks, "What are your plans from here? Art lead or character design? Pitching your own projects. When can we see those early days puppets in action?"
No. Yeah. Yeah, it's in the works. Yeah, I do want to pitch something to Netflix eventually. Um, that's the good thing about studios like Netflix. If you work there, like they have like town hall meetings, which is like every whatever once a month or something, and they have like kind of like this, like where somebody talks and they you can ask questions and stuff. And they even do like a pitch where it's like, oh, here's how to pitch your work to us, and like other things like that. And so yeah, I definitely like want to, I have a few things in mind that I want to do, but I want to get the book thing done first. I want to get these like books published. So that's kind of like my top priority, because I feel like I'm already done with that and like it's feasible. Also setting goals like you could hit are like good. So I want to hit that goal. And then yeah, definitely like either do some personal stop motion stuff, or like pitch something to like Netflix. are like be an art director, um, maybe like the next step. Um, yeah.
That's so cool. Can I ask what brought you to publishing or like making like children's books?
I love illustration, and I love like a lot of artists I liked are like did children's books, and I was like, man, that's so cool. Um, also kind of going back to the like sometimes in animation, like things are so technical, and like because you're actually building these things, and like these things are being animated, and like in children's books, it's just like so straightforward, and like it's like an image could just exist on a page, and like you don't need any other like turns and like other stuff like that, and like I feel like it's kind of freeing, and like artists like Chris Sasaki's like children's books are like amazing, like Anna Ramirez, um, and like Christensen Robinson is like an amazing children's book author that I like look up to. Oliver Jeffers, if you guys aren't familiar. Um, yeah, like always just super inspired. And then also being able to write it, like to have control over the story versus like I feel like it's like you have to be like a director or like the creator of a show in animation to have like full say over things. And then even then there's like some higher ups that like no, we can't do that, or the budget doesn't allow for that. But children's books you can kind of like there's some drawbacks, but like for the most part, like go for it.
I have a question also regarding to children's books. Um, for your own process, did you first come up with the illustrations, or did you have a story in mind and kind of focus your illustrations on that? What was your personal kind of journey on that process?
um so I think for those books I started out with the story, I want to believe. Yeah, like for the flame, like for the Piro, the one with the where he's like a little flame. And it was actually a lyric that I heard on like the radio. It was like something about a flame uh dancing like on a candlestick or something. Like I don't even know the artist or like what it was, but I was just like, oh, that's interesting. And so like that book originated from that, where I just like drew kind of that character, and I knew like a premise of like what I wanted the story to be, but it kind of went hand in hand for me, where I was drawing the character, and just the more I drew the character, I was like, oh yeah, this is like his personality, and this is like what the story's going to be about. Um, but I just mainly had the drawing of the flame, and then I created the story around that. And then for the other one, the Karma's a Bug, it's basically about like these three bugs who like find like these acorns and like peanut and just like their own little item, and then there's like this stink bug that comes along and like steals all the stuff and like basically lies and stuff. um and and he gets his in the end or whatever. But that one came from, I wanted just to tell a story. Yeah, about that one was more like word driven, where I wanted to tell a story about like these bugs and like this stink bug, and then yeah, so the artwork came after on that one. But like in creating the book, like when you're creating the pictures for it, like the ending and the like beginning and middle like just will probably stay the same, but like it'll alter like a little bit based on your artwork and stuff.
Did you refer to any books when creating backgrounds or just in general artworks?
um Sorry, this is, I think was distracting me.
It's okay.
Did you refer to any books when creating backgrounds or just in general artworks? I I get just like creating backgrounds. Do I refer to any books? Maybe like VizDev, like a lot of like art of books, like for the VizDev stuff I'll look at. Um yeah, any other books and creating backgrounds. I'm trying to think, like, there's like a lot of books that I like. Most of them are just like artists though. Um, like I'll look at the artwork um, of like art of books from like Pixar, like whatever, and like kind of dissect like what they did, like just by looking at the pictures and stuff like that. As far as like maybe like I don't know if you mean like a book where it's like more technical, where it like teaches you. There's this book, The Drawing Club, that has like just a bunch of like drawing. It's like more like figure drawing and stuff like that. Um, but I have that book and I love that book. But it's just like it's just like kind of figure drawing stuff though, but like not the technical side. It's more of like an expressive um, type of a book. Yeah.
So Genesis asks, hello, what are some tips that you can give that can help us work efficiently in a fast-paced environment? And how do you try to avoid burnout? So that's 2 questions.
Yeah, super good questions. So some tips I could give to work faster is just like you kind of just have to draw all the time to be comfortable enough with to kind of bust something out like pretty quickly. And I would have to say like reference too, like doing all your reference. I know sometimes if I like jump straight into a drawing, like sometimes it works, but I feel like the drawing isn't as like strong. But if you start off with like a good foundation of like reference and like a clear picture of what you want to do, like just really quick rough sketches, I feel like that helps in the long run. Um, for like everything that I do, like say at Netflix and stuff, like I will do like a rough pass, because if I jump straight in, unless it's like something fairly simple where I like, oh, I don't need reference. Like if it's like, oh, we need a design of like a number 2 pencil, or like, I don't know, something like simple where I'm like, okay, like I know what a pencil looks like and stuff. And like, yeah, I could just bust straight into it. But yeah, if it's something more complicated, yeah, definitely reference helps speed up my process, because then I'm not going backwards in like oh, this design didn't work. Um, and yeah, just the more mileage you do, which I think was a question, I'm not sure, but just mileage is just the more time you put into it, um, really just the more hours you are drawing, the more comfortable you're going to be drawing anything. Um, and then how do I avoid burnout? Um, I think really the side projects and stuff really work for me. If I was I love what I do, but it is a job, like at the end of the day, which is something I think you don't really think about as like a student. Like you have this kind of euphoria of like, and I had that especially too, like going to Leica, I was like, this is like everything I ever wanted. And then like it was awesome. And I remember like the first like, I would say maybe like month working there, like I didn't want to leave. Like I didn't want to leave work. Like I I would like look up at the clock and I'd be like, oh shoot, like everyone's already going home. And then like even like the first like 2 weeks, I like stayed after hours, and like just to learn the style of like the show, because that's like something super like you'll have to adapt to, is like hopping from different shows that have different styles. Um, and so yeah, I would like stay after work, and like I did get burned out like doing that, because I would like stay till like 9 o'clock and then I would go home, and like no one was telling me to be there either. Like my art director, he's like, go home, like and yeah, but like to avoid burnout, like definitely like doing like side projects like for my personal self, are like goals that I have, as well as like going, like I like traveling and like being outdoors. So like when I get like sick of like drawing, I'll just be like, oh, I'll like go camping or like go like to the beach or something. Um, I also like to play the guitar, but I treat it as like I don't do any like technical stuff with like music and stuff because I feel like I like art I really do like a lot of technical stuff and like learning like constantly learning and deep diving into it. And then like the guitar is kind of just like this hobby that like I can just like have no one tell me like I'm doing it right or wrong. I'm just like doing it just to like do it. Like
All right, thank you so much. That's great advice. Sometimes you just need to do stuff for fun.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. In a similar note, like, what do you do when you feel like you're stuck with creating art?
Uh Going out and taking a break too, kind of similar along the same lines. Um, I remember like first starting off, and like even now, like you get like artist block, and like you kind of like you're trying to like, "Oh, I'm gonna make like this really good piece, like that's gonna be up to like this par of like level or whatever." And then you like just start drawing it, and like it's just not working. And like the more you kind of like mess with it, and like it just frustrates you more. I've definitely had like those moments and like still do. And like, you just need to like step away and like do something else, like refresh your mind, like go outside for a walk or whatever you need to do. And then come back to it. Or like if it's like too complex too, like the whole thing, like what I was saying with like setting realistic like kind of goals. Um, yeah, like do something where you like know you're gonna like nail, like that will look cool because there's like I feel like in my work too there's a lot of stuff that's like really simple, that's like, oh, just like throw a circle and a triangle and some eyeballs and like looks like a person, and like, oh yeah, it looks pretty cool, um like you don't have to overcomplicate things. um and like sometimes I'll just do like little sketches like that for fun where I have like no expectation, and then that'll kind of set me up for like, oh yeah, okay, like put me like in a good mood and like to do something like a little bit more advanced or like whatever I'm trying to do.
Cool, thank you so much. Brian Wang is asking, what are your three top favorite animated films? I don't think I read that right. That's
Top
okay.
three. Yeah, yeah. We get it. We get the gist. My top favorite, yeah, three animated films. I mean, I would have to put Coraline on there just because of what it has done for me. Super love the art, and yeah, it's just amazing. And I would have to say Fantastic Mr. Fox is another one that's like one of my top favorites. Just like the design of that and like the simplicity of it. Like I know like a lot of my family members like hate it, like just absolutely hate that movie. And I'm like, what? You guys are crazy. Like, um, but just like the writing in it too, it's just like so punchy and like so witty, and like it does take a specific person, I guess, to like it. Um, like certain type, which is the good type. um, but yeah, Fantastic Mr. Fox. Um, and for my third one, I would have to say I'm trying like not to pick a stop motion animation.
I mean,
Um,
if it's your favorite, it's your favorite, right?
yeah.
I see the Paranorman poster in the back too. Like, great
Oh
movie.
yeah, I love Paranorman's design, and the story was okay, but it's not my favorite. But it was good. I liked it.
Beautiful movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For my third one, we'll just say, I mean, probably Nightmare for Christmas or something like that. It's a classic and super beautiful, amazing film.
All right. Luis asks, how has COVID affected your prospects for work? Do you prefer working on location or remote? And how have you maintained continuous work during these times?
Um, yeah, so actually during all of this, like I've been busier than ever, which is good. Um, so like I actually moved back because I lived in Oregon and I was working at Leica, and I actually moved back like when like right before all of this like happened, and I was working from Leica from home actually. So I've been like working from home for quite a while. Um, but yeah, I was like working at Leica for a year, and then I moved back and I was working here in California at Leica still, but for like personal like family reasons. Um, and so when I came back here, I was actually gonna fly, move back because they still wanted me to. Yeah, I was still working for them. But then like all this happened, and then I actually got a job offer, the Netflix one. And so like with my situation, I like didn't want to leave Leica, but because of like certain situations, like it was the right thing to do for me at the time. Um, and yeah, and then so that's how yeah. So and then so I started working at Netflix, and then um, I've been doing like a lot of like freelance stuff as well, like with Warner Brothers and like with like I just did this uh there's a movie coming out, Vivo, Sony animation. It's coming out in a few months. So I did like a children's book off of the movie. Um and so like that's been keeping me like super busy um to where I kind of need a break. um and then what was the do I prefer working? I prefer working in studio. um I ideally, like I would like to work in studio like 3 times a week and then the rest from home, which like Netflix might be doing. They're like it might be that way when we go back. Um, but yeah, I really enjoy like just being around other artists and like actually leaving my house and like doing something. Um, and so like work and like the studio, like if when you work in like animation, like studios have like really cool perks. Like yeah, they have really cool perks in studios and stuff like that. So um, I want I want some of those back. And you get to see like people and like you get to network too, like meeting new people and like seeing like um, they'll have like stuff like throughout the months or whatever where they're like, oh, we're doing like a screening of like this or that and stuff. And so being at home, you just see it like on a screen or something. So you're not in community with everybody. Yeah. I think I answered, yeah, continuous work. Yeah.
Yeah. If anybody else has any other questions, please put them in the Q&A.
I actually have a question regarding to portfolios. So, for example, for visual development, do you think it's smarter to categorize um, so kind of tracking back, if a student has several personal stories or projects that they're working on, and each kind of story has their own set of props and characters and worlds, do you think it's important to categorize the portfolio per story, or is it important to kind of specify like character design and then prop design and then background design, and not specifically just categorize in the order of story, if that makes sense? I know it's kind of confusing.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense. So you're basically saying like if you had like say Pinocchio and Snow White and like putting them together instead of like in their separate like props, like props and backgrounds column or like characters,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, sorry, I think you froze for like a second. Yeah, I've asked myself that question too. And like I think in my portfolio and like my website, if you guys don't have a website, make a website. um, it yeah, you need a website. I think I'm gonna categorize my stuff by like project, um, because within like those projects will have a different like, or like for instance like Gee Happy, like when I'm able to like release like my working stuff like and have it on my website, I'll probably just have a category that says like Gee Happy, and then one that says like Looney Tunes, and then one that says like, you know, Canvas or like Sony, like whatever. um because like all the style is going to be cohesive within that, and then they could kind of just like flip through that. um I know it's a little different for like a student work because you're doing everything. Because like for Gee Happy, I'm doing like prop design and like background design, so it's kind of limited in that. um but yeah, if you're doing a project, I would probably just keep it all together, like all the pieces together. um yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much. We have a question by Victoria, and they're asking, sometimes I am struggling because I don't have much imagination for my visual development scenarios. Do you have any tips on exercising their imagination?
Yeah. I guess taking yourself out of kind of like a day-to-day, like the monotony of kind of like a day-to-day thing. Maybe kind of going outside or like trying something new, um, to spark those interests. Like, um, you know, go to like maybe say like, oh, I'm gonna go to the beach today, and then like, or even not, it could be even the park or whatever, and then say like, oh, like I'm gonna take pictures of like the tennis court and like the dog there and like whatever, and then maybe you could like make something based off that, like, oh, what would be like, I'm gonna do like a park theme right now or something, you know, and you can design the grass and you can design like the basketball courts and stuff like that. Um, and really like letting loose at first, like don't be so like, um, I know when I'm working, like if I try to be like, okay, it needs to be like this style and it needs to like be super cool and like have all these whatever big shapes or whatnot. um like I already like put myself in a box by doing that, and so like I'll just like sketch and like just, you know, I'll try crazy things. I think that's something that's super important, is like you could always go, like if you go too far like in your drawings, like whoa, that's like really out there, like the dog's legs are way too huge and like compared to his torso or whatever, it just doesn't work. You could always like bring that back, you know, but if you like are really tight with it and like just like, yeah, just like tight with your drawings, it's like has no life in it. And so like just kind of try crazy things, that you normally wouldn't, because like it might inspire something else that you have in mind that you wouldn't think of in the first place. So keeping, yeah, your drawings really loose.
All right. Louise asks, what would you say studios respond to better? The applications to their job postings, emails to their recruiters, or DMing the leads? How much is too much slash not enough in regard to looking to new projects and opportunities?
Yeah, I would say try it all. But as far as like DMing like people, I would say do it in a kind of respectful manner. Like when I was DMing like people, like it was literally like, oh, hey, can I ask you like a few questions? And then like the conversation would die after that. And then like I was fine with that. And I would like post stuff and then they would like comment it on it or whatever. So it wasn't like super aggressive. Um, but at the same time, it was like still being like, hey, I'm still like here and alive, you know? And a lot of the times what happened, like it might be over a period of time, because you might meet them at one point where you're like barely getting started or your artwork's like, you know, decent because you're, you know, learning. Um, and then as they see your like progress, like they'll be like, oh wow, like look at all this progress they made. um, and that's like more so in like a, um, Instagram type of way, but also even like in a, like if you meet a recruiter or something, Like there's recruiters that I've met like years ago. Like there's a like I got offered a job at Disney while I was at Netflix, and I had to like turn it down because I mean I like what I'm working on now, um, and I'm committed to that. But like I met them like years ago, and they just reached out like randomly. So like they were like on my website or something because like you know like you never know what's going on in the background. Um, so I would say yeah, like apply to like internships, like apply to jobs, um, like message recruiters, like in a yeah in a thoughtful and like constructive way to where you're not just like hey like bugging them, but like if you're asking like constructive questions, like then I think that'll give you better chances. Um, yeah, and yeah, I think I answered all.
Yeah. All right. And we have another question. At what age did you get your first internship? And do portfolios need a certain standard before applying?
If you have like a portfolio, I would just apply. Like if the opportunity is there, like because you never know. Um, I was when I first got my I actually never done an internship, um, but I did like those like the stop motion stuff, like the first one where I reached out to that guy. Um, I guess I mean, it wasn't like a technical internship. Um, it was him just being like, "Hey, you want to help out?" And I was like, "Sure," like off the record. um, but how old was I? I think I was like 20, like 20 maybe, or like 21. Um, because yeah, I went to school like I could have probably been a doctor by the time like I finished school. Like I went to so many community colleges and other things, um, that like I didn't get my job until 2016. Or no later than that. 2018 was like my first was like the Warner Brothers where I was getting paid. Um, and I graduated in 2010. So that was like 8 years like after. But it was also because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I went to community college for like 2.5 years of just like painting and drawing, and like with no intention of going into animation. And then the whole like CalArts thing and like building my pro. But I needed that time because like I wasn't ready. Um, and then yeah, you don't really need a standard. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but if you kind of know like, oh, okay, this isn't like up to par, like you can kind of expect like, okay, I probably won't get it, you know. But there's like other opportunities out there that you can probably do, or like mentorships or stuff that you might have better luck with than like interning like at a studio, like actually doing artwork. But there's like a lot of PA, like a production assistant jobs where you're just like scanning like papers and like doing errands and stuff. But like those are really good because you get to meet people and then you get to see like the inner workings of like how a studio functions. So you can try those as well.
All right. Any more questions for our speaker here? All right. We got another one. An anonymous attendee asked, do studios expect a lot of you or do they teach you along the way?
Studios basically they hire you for a job, so they expect you to be able to do that job. They're not. That's like what internships are for. um, like a studio isn't going to pay you a good salary to like teach you to do something. Like as I said before, like there's a deadline for everything, and usually the budget is not like massive. So it's like you're working on a budget and you're working within a time frame that's like you're not in control of. Like the directors, the people creating aren't in control of that. It's really the studios, and like it's a business, so they have to put those limits on each product or each show that's like greenlit. So you got to be ready to go, basically, or else, that's another good point. Like, I felt like I was ready when I felt like I still had a lot to learn, but I felt like I could do the job like enough to where they would be happy, and I could learn, like, get better from there. But like if I felt like if I wasn't ready, and then like I got the job, for instance, and I wasn't able to do what was of me, I mean, you would be let go. Because yeah, they need artists that can do the job.
All right. Another anonymous attendee asks, have you ever had a bad experience while working? And it's like you don't have to share if you're not comfortable.
Fortunately, knock on wood, like I haven't had any bad experiences. Um, the only thing I would say like is like maybe tight deadlines, or but that's kind of like, what are you gonna do about that? Um, is like, yeah, sometimes you just gotta like really like cram, like, yeah, try and cram everything and like finish everything to hit your deadlines. Um, I will say maybe like with like illustration work, like freelance stuff I've done, like some stuff I'm hesitant to do because like the company like doesn't know what they want, or like they're very picky, and like it's like not something that's enjoyable. Um, because I've done like music posters and stuff for like companies too, and like other stuff like that, and some of them have been great, and then others have been like, oh, like, man, like this is really like not what I want to be doing right now, because like, and you got to be kind of strict with them because like they want like a million revisions, and like they don't know what they want, and like the pay's sometimes it could be great, and sometimes it could be like, yeah, it's just like another gig. But if they're making you do all that stuff, like you got to definitely be compensated pretty good.
Any more questions? Oh, okay. Uh, how often do you use reference on the job? If you can't come up with something how on the spot, is there pressure?
Yeah, I would say that, yeah, sometimes like I'll be working on something and I will feel like, oh, I can't make this work. Like I was working on a freelance job actually, um, earlier today, and it was like a prop design for Warner Brothers, and like I was doing it, and I was just like, man, this isn't working. Like, and I was getting reference and stuff, but it just still kind of wasn't working out. But thankfully, like I kind of got it figured out. Um, but yeah, it just comes with the experience, I guess. Yeah, and back to the mileage thing. But yeah, definitely, yeah, you do feel the pressure.
All right. And we got one other question. Do you have any tips for working freelance?
Um, yeah, having your as far as like getting freelance gigs, depends on what kind of freelance stuff you want to do. Like right now I'm doing freelance stuff for Warner Brothers, and like that was going back to Aaron Spurgeon. He's the one who recommended me to do that because I already worked with Warner Brothers, so I'm like in their database. So it's like a lot easier too for them to like hire me for like a quick thing, because like I'm already on payroll, like I'm already doing those things. Um, so it does have to do with networking, but like if you don't have like any experience like that, I would just say like have like a LinkedIn, and like have like your website, and like any other like social media stuff that you can, like the more you're present to online, because like a lot of recruiters like look on those things, and like I got hired at Netflix um through LinkedIn. Like I didn't even apply. They just like reached out to me, which was like super fortunate for like the situation I was in, because I was working full time at Leica, but It just happened to work better with my situation. But yeah, so having things like LinkedIn and like being kind of like consistent, I guess, with like posting good work, or having like your website with like some solid work. um yeah, and then if you want like to do like stuff like children's books or like freelance stuff, like, I have friends that do like stuff for like Starbucks and like Nike or whatever, and like they mainly do like illustration work. um have a section for that type of stuff in your on your website, so have it separate from like animation stuff, because like animations, they won't really, they're not going to look at like this gift card you made for Starbucks. Like, I mean, it'll be cool, but like they don't have that much time to be doing that. um yeah.
All right. An anonymous attendee asks, "Do you have any art books that you always go to for inspiration, or any artists that get you motivated to draw?"
Yeah, as far as like art books, yeah, just like the kind of the art books, like the like art books and the visual development ones stuff are always super inspiring, because you kind of get everything in there. um and you get to like read those names. Like I would, yeah, read the names on the bottom who actually did the work, and like type them in and like look at their other work and stuff. um and then yeah, like other books like Anna Ramirez. She works at Pixar, and she does like children's books. Like her, I love like her artwork and her style. um and like Christensen Robinson, he's like a children's book illustrator. He's like amazing. um yeah, and any artists, yeah, and it's just kind of like those. Sometimes I'll like go on like Pinterest and like just type in, or I'll like type in like maybe an artist I'm familiar with, and then I'll click them, and then like, it'll bring you all the images that are related. Like, and I'll kind of just go through that and go in this deep dive of like finding new artists or like new artwork where I'm like, whoa, that's super cool, like how they did that or this. um but it doesn't have to be artists as well. Like it could be like films, or like not animated, like not related to animated the animation. It could be just like films or music and stuff.
All right. I think we're almost about out of time. So I just wanted to ask like one last quick question. Do you have any advice for us students who are like aspiring to join the animation industry? Like any closing thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just keep on drawing, and keep on like experimenting, and really just trying to push yourself in like different ways, and like opening up, like being open to fail as well. um and trying new things often leads to that. Whether it's like picking up a different like material to draw with, or whether it's taking up, like, you never know what's going to happen, because like you might take a pottery class, and like that might inspire you to do something in your art, or like you might totally like head in this different direction, still within art, but it could like weave. You never know what's going to happen, and so I think like opening up yourself to that, um, to be inspired by other things that aren't necessarily animation related, um, yeah, could really open up your mind to things in animation that you never seen before. So yeah, just keep on drawing, like do those technical stuff, all even though they might be really aggravating. um, and yeah, ask me any questions if you have any questions. You can hit me up on Instagram. It's just Derek Ortega. Um, but yeah, I'm always open to like helping out people that are trying to get into animation, because I know how it feels.
All right, cool. Thank you so much, Derek, for coming to speak for us. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been really inspiring and just very wonderful learning from you and what inspires you and how to get out of that creative rut if we ever come to it. So, yeah, thank you so much for your time and for just joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Yes, and thank you for sharing your work. It's so wonderful to look at.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you guys for coming. Have a good night.
Night.
Yeah,
Bye.
have a good night. Bye.